thinking through the Word. Thank you for joining us for a study of Deuteronomy chapter 10. As we look at one chapter a week, working our way through the Bible. I want to offer you 5 highlights from this paragraph this morning. If you've found some things that we don't talk about, please feel free to send any input to info@gracekc.org. I'd love to hear your thoughts as you explore the Word. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 12 to 22. First thing I want to highlight is the very beginning. And now, Israel. And now. What sets apart Israel now from then? Well, looking back, and you could do this in Deuteronomy or in Exodus and Numbers, you would see that the generation of Israelites, 40 years old and older, died in the wilderness. The younger than 40 ones are now approaching the promised land for the second time. So now Moses is recounting for that younger generation all that God has done for the nation of Israel, for his people, and he is admonishing them with the law and calling them to obedience, which their fathers did not give to God. Hence the emphasis on the now. Now, Israel. Our second emphasis or highlight is the very next phrase. What does the Lord your God require of you? And we could put a big question mark there. Sounds like Micah chapter 6, asking that same question, what does God require? And so what we are going to see is a 5-fold requirement. You could list them individually, probably helpful to lump them all together in understanding that God requires of us a life of comprehensive worship. Look how it unfolds. 1, to fear the Lord your God. A reverence, an awe, a wonder, an understanding of his holiness. He is set apart. He is entirely different than us. 2, to walk in all of his ways. He's made his ways known to the people and they should walk in them. 3, to love him. Don't ever make the mistake that somehow the Old Testament is about law and the New Testament is about grace. The Old Testament is rugged and rigid and heartless, and the New Testament gets to the heart. No, there was law in the Old Testament, but God also wanted their hearts. He wanted them to love him. 4, to serve the Lord. Here it is again, with all your heart and all your soul. This is foundational to Jesus' words in the New Testament as he summarized all the law in loving God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And then number 5, to keep the commandments and statutes of the Lord, which he had commanded. Comprehensive worship, a whole life given over to the Lord. Third highlight, this little phrase at the end of verse 13, for your good. For your good. The commandments of the Lord are for our good. This is exactly what the devil will try to tempt us with. believing that God's commandments are not good. So believe this. Believe that God's commandments are for our good. The boundaries that he puts in his word, his call to holiness is for our good. Over and over again, the Bible will warn us about the end of our own way, the end of worthless pursuits of those things which can never truly satisfy. So is it not the kindness of God to command us and to guide us and to put boundaries in place to steer us down the path toward ultimate joy? His commands are for our good. Do not believe the lie of the devil. This begs the question, why did God care about their good? Why did God care about their good? After all, verse 14, behold, to the Lord your God belong heaven and the heaven of heavens, the earth and all that is in it. All this belongs to God. As the psalmist would say, what is man that you are mindful of him? Verse 15, yet, here's the highlight, the Lord set his heart in love. He set his heart in love on your fathers and chose their offspring after them, which is them, you. The Lord set his heart in love on your fathers and on you. So the Lord gives his commands for our good. And though the Lord is in the heavens and sovereign over all things, and all things belong to him, he has a special choosing for his people. Here in the Old Testament, we find this foundation for the doctrine of God's election. His election rests in this. He set his heart in love. That is why we should flesh out that five-fold requirement of comprehensive worship there in verse 12 and 13. If we look down to verse 18, we see some timely truth. 17 and 18. The Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, the awesome. That's worthy of some meditation when we think we're being overwhelmed by the world. Here is our God. And then look, after these descriptions, look what unfolds. He is not partial. He is not influenced to take a side. He's not bribed. The summary is he executes justice. If you have any eye or ear open to what is going on in the country right now, then we can celebrate the Bible's proclamation that God is a God of justice. We don't have to become extremists on one side or the other. We don't have to be overly defensive, overly accusatory. We don't have to get caught up in virtue signaling. We can stand on a biblical position, which is this, that God is a God of justice, that he hates evil in any form. He is a God of justice. And then it unfolds for those that are without protection, for the sojourner, the one passing through, that outsider. And God even issues the command to love the sojourner. Why? Because you were sojourners in the land of Egypt and you were mistreated. You know exactly how it feels to be on the short end of the stick. And so you, of all people, should be ready to love the sojourner. I want you to see how this paragraph concludes. He is your praise. He is your God. And don't miss the emphasis. He is your God. He is your praise. That means God and praise go together. If you're going to say you're worshiping God, then you should be praising. If you're not praising, then we wonder what you think about God. He is your praise. He is your God. And who is this God who has done for you these great and terrifying things that your eyes have seen? I remind you that while you may not have seen the 10 plagues and the sea divided so that they could cross on dry ground, God has done great and terrifying things for you. Let them lead you to praise. Let them lead you to obedience. Let them lead you to fear the Lord, to walk in his ways, to serve him with all your heart, to keep his commandments. Because the God who is in the heavens and claims the heavens and the earth as his own has set his love on you. And he has executed justice, the justice that your sin demanded, on Jesus Christ because he loved you. And having tasted that mercy, having understood the justice that is only found through Christ, you of all people should be someone who cherishes justice for those who do not have it, who can love the outsider and welcome them in to make them an insider. You shall fear the Lord your God. You shall serve him, hold fast to him, swear by his name because he is your praise. He is your God, and he has done all these great things for you. Deuteronomy 10, a great summary of much of the books of the law and a great foundation for what will come in the rich blessings on the church through Jesus Christ. If you haven't looked at it yet, go back and read Deuteronomy 10, and we'll look forward to plowing ahead, making our way through God's word, thinking all the while. Grace and peace to you.